Hey, what's up, guys? Today, I'll show you a vampire horror film named Renfield. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. The movie begins with a man named Renfield, the personal attendant of Count Dracula. The story of their association dates back to the last century, when Renfield was just a real estate agent. During a fortuitous visit to the Count's mansion, he encountered Dracula. Dracula took an immediate liking to Renfield and invited him to become his assistant. At that time, Renfield was in a financially difficult situation, so he agreed to the proposition for the money. As a result, Renfield became Dracula's servant, gaining immortality and superpowers. However, Renfield's superpowers can only be activated by swallowing insects. Unlike vampires, he does not fear sunlight or need to drink human blood. Apart from immortality and superpowers, Renfield is just like any other human. With Dracula's assistance, Renfield enjoys the pleasure brought by money. Meanwhile, he also helps Dracula find fresh blood for sustenance. As time goes on, Dracula kills more and more people. A group of hunters target him and come knocking at his door. Dracula, transformed into a Grim Reaper, starts to mercilessly reap their lives. A priest confronts Dracula with a crucifix, but his cross is ineffective against the powerful vampire. At a critical moment, the priest creates a magic circle, trapping Dracula within. Despite Dracula's desperate struggle, it is futile. Just then, Renfield rushes to the scene. The priest urges Renfield not to attempt to save Dracula, promising him that once Dracula dies, the world can be freed from his clutches, and Renfield can regain his freedom. Dracula persuades Renfield not to believe the priest's bullshit, warning that if he dies, Renfield will be imprisoned for having served him. Finally, under Dracula's influence, Renfield helps break the magic circle. The next moment, the freed Dracula invades the priest's diabetic body and explodes him without mercy. The remaining hunter shoots an arrow at the curtain, letting sunlight flood the room. Dracula is attacked, his body igniting in flames. Dracula rushes towards the hunter, burning him alive. Meanwhile, Renfield picks up a cloth to cover Dracula, extinguishing the flames on his body. However, Dracula is severely burned and disfigured. In the days that followed, Renfield moved with Dracula to a new city. After settling him in, Renfield would go out each day to find fresh blood for Dracula to rejuvenate his strength. Renfield was still possessing a shred of conscience and would only hunt down evildoers as sustenance for Dracula. Gradually, Renfield grew weary of this lifestyle, feeling a deep sense of guilt within him. He thought about leaving Dracula. One day, he attended a support group meeting to listen to other people's stories, seeking solace for his tormented soul. When the meeting ended, Renfield stood up to leave, setting out to find food for Dracula once again. This time, he targeted 3 thieves. Just a short while ago, these 3 had stolen drugs from the local mob boss. As they were devising a plan to dispose of the stolen drugs, Renfield cut off the warehouse power and appeared on the scene. With his superpower, he managed to stun the 3 clumsy thieves easily. Unexpectedly, before he could take them back, an assassin dispatched by the mob boss to pursue the thieves arrived. The masked figure was tall and burly. Renfield was about to explain the situation when the figure drew his weapon and attacked. Renfield nimbly dodged and finally managed to send the assassin flying several meters away like an adult toy. As he prepared to finish the job, the assassin pulled out a spare dagger from his jacket, slashing Renfield across his abdomen. Renfield was in agony, and the assassin took advantage of the situation, grabbing Renfield's juicy tongue. Renfield realized he could no longer hide his true power. He then pulled out a pen and stabbed it into the assassin's neck. Then, he knocked the assassin down and dealt a crushing blow that sent the assassin to meet Jesus. The mob boss, Teddy, saw the unfolding scene and was scared witless. He floored the accelerator, fleeing the scene like a chicken riding a Tesla bike. However, not long into his escape, he was caught up in a police checkpoint. Teddy had a stash of drugs in his car. Fearing capture, he chose to force his way through the roadblock. The policewoman, Rebecca, quickly drew her gun and shot out Teddy's tires. The car instantly lost control and finally came to a halt at the roadside. In the next second, Teddy clutched his bag of drugs and jumped out of the car, taking off on foot with Rebecca hot on his heels. A well-aimed throwing knife from Rebecca knocked Teddy out and he was arrested. However, the Teddy family wielded considerable influence locally, so Teddy was bailed out the next day. Seeing this, Rebecca was beyond frustrated. Upon returning home, Teddy received blames from his mother. On the other side of town, Renfield was delivering food to Dracula. Upon tasting a bite, Dracula spat it out immediately. He couldn't stomach the food at all. Dracula instructed Renfield to fetch some high-quality food. He wished to taste the fresh blood of virgin girls, believing that only their blood could aid his recovery. Out of options, Renfield went to a local bar that night to find new food for Dracula. Coincidentally, Rebecca was also there investigating a case. Unbeknownst to her, Rebecca had offended Teddy with her actions the night before, and he had brought his men to teach her a lesson. Just as Rebecca walked into the bar, a group of thugs followed. Seeing Rebecca in her police uniform, Renfield halted his actions and tried to slip out the back door. However, he saw a group of fully armed thugs approaching the bar, forcing him to run back inside. Shortly, Teddy burst into the bar with his team, taking control of the situation and pointing a gun at Rebecca's head. Just as Rebecca's life hung in the balance, Renfield's sense of justice ignited. After swallowing a worm, he gained superpowers and switched to combat mode. He joined forces with Rebecca to take out the thugs in the bar. Seeing the tables turn, Teddy hastily made his escape through the back door. After the fight, Rebecca thanked Renfield for stepping in to help. Then, she intended to take the bar patrons back to the police station as witnesses, aiming to bring Teddy to justice. However, Teddy's family influence had already infiltrated the upper ranks of the police. Consequently, the bar attack case was once again left unresolved. Renfield, failing to find fresh blood due to the bar incident, was later scolded by Dracula. Despondent, Renfield went to the support group, where he decided to leave Dracula after some enlightening conversations. He rented an apartment outside and started his new life, unbeknownst to him that his heroic act at the bar had drawn the attention of Teddy's gang. Teddy's mother demanded her underlings to locate and eliminate Renfield within a day, so Teddy took up the task. After monitoring the surveillance, Teddy noticed Renfield frequently visiting a deserted building. Misinterpreting it as Renfield's residence, he led a team there, only to find it's Dracula's secret hideout. Mistaking Teddy's group for some religious order, Dracula swiftly eliminated all of them, leaving only Teddy alive. Terrified, Teddy quickly explained that he was there to find Renfield, who had interfered with his affairs and killed some gang members. Upon hearing that, Dracula got furious. He crushed his phone, turned into a swarm of bats, and left the building to find Renfield. By that time, Dracula had already regained 80% of his power. He severely reprimanded Renfield for his betrayal, reminding him that he had taken him in during his lonely times. Therefore, Renfield was destined to serve him. Renfield then took out a book from the support group, telling Dracula that he deserved love and happiness. He no longer wanted to live the life he used to, being abused by Dracula. Upon hearing this, Dracula laughed. He snatched the book, wanting to see who had instilled these stupid ideas into Renfield's mind. Discovering it was the support group, he left the apartment and headed straight there. He wreaked havoc at the support group. These people were weak chickens before the powerful vampire. Realizing something was off, Renfield hurriedly followed, but was too late. Dracula had already begun a killing spree. Looking at the bodies of his fellow members, Renfield was devastated. But facing the powerful Dracula, Renfield was powerless, only able to watch as he collapsed to the ground. Not long after the horrific incident, Rebecca arrived at the scene with her team. The bloody spectacle before her was overwhelming. Subsequently, she planned to bring Renfield, the man found at the scene, back to the police station. Unexpectedly, a swarm of gang cars surrounded them. The police chief appeared, accompanied by Bloody Mary, Teddy's mother, who emerged from one of the cars. Bloody Mary didn't want to complicate things for Rebecca. She just wanted Renfield. She needed to find out what had happened after Teddy went to see him. The chief tried to persuade Rebecca as well. Rebecca pretended to compromise in the face of this situation. She quickly drew her gun and shot out the surrounding streetlights, creating confusion. Amid a hail of bullets, she managed to escape the scene by car. Bloody Mary was furious. From then on, both the gang and law enforcement began to track Rebecca's movements. The scene shifted to Dracula. He returned to the abandoned building and seized Teddy, hoping to collaborate with him to eliminate Renfield. He planned to unleash a horde of undead to make Renfield suffer. Teddy was petrified and had to agree. Meanwhile, Renfield had returned to his apartment with Rebecca. He explained that what had happened at the support group had nothing to do with him. He also revealed Dracula's existence and his own superpowers. Rebecca didn't believe him and planned to take Renfield to the FBI. Just as they stepped out, they saw a group of armed gang members and police officers rushing up. Renfield, who was powerless without eating bugs, began to look around for insects. Just as the gangsters were about to reach them, Renfield saw bugs in a neighbor's home. So he dashed in, grabbed the bug, and stuffed it into his mouth. His pupils turned yellow and he gained superpowers, immediately switching to combat mode. Renfield acquired superpowers instantly. He broke out through the window and engaged in a fierce fight with the gangsters in the corridor. He threw punches left and right, leaving his enemies unable to retaliate. He even rips off one person's arms and uses them as a weapon, wielding the two severed arms. He fought like Bruce Lee, leaving the gang members helpless and facing certain death, while Rebecca also joined the battle and took out one opponent after another. When she was ambushed by two men and her life was in danger, Renfield threw a severed arm with precision, saving her from the danger. After a bloody battle, Renfield and Rebecca came out victorious. Rebecca then realized that what Renfield had said was true. Bloody Mary and the police chief were taken aback after observing this through the surveillance system. The chief realized Renfield was no ordinary man, so he decided to keep his distance from this mess. However, as he was about to leave, he was sent to meet Jesus. Then Teddy appeared with Dracula, expressing their intention to collaborate with Bloody Mary and rule the world. After that, Bloody Mary kidnapped Rebecca's sister to lure Rebecca, using her sister as a bargaining chip to force Rebecca to her mansion to settle the matter. Renfield sensed that Dracula was there too, and he tried to stop Rebecca from going. Rebecca encouraged Renfield to stand up for himself, that only by confronting Dracula could Renfield achieve true freedom. Inspired by Rebecca's encouragement, Renfield decided to go all in. They then began to prepare their weapons, purchasing guns, ammunition, bugs, and the powder for making magic circles. Once everything was ready, they drove to Bloody Mary's stronghold. Upon arrival, Renfield discovered that Teddy and his men had already been turned and assimilated by Dracula. Renfield and Rebecca fearlessly drew their guns and fired. Renfield managed to take down several of the henchmen barehanded. Just then, Teddy appeared, brandishing two guns. Renfield stepped forward to duel them, covering for Rebecca as she broke into Bloody Mary's office. Teddy proved a formidable opponent with his superpowers. The fight was evenly matched, with neither side gaining the upper hand. Initially, Renfield was no match for Teddy, but at the last minute, Renfield swallowed a bug and gained immense power. With a heavy kick, he sent Teddy to his death. Finally, Renfield walked into Bloody Mary's office. By then, Rebecca had been beguiled by Dracula. Rebecca's sister was severely injured and barely alive. Rebecca had to pretend to join Dracula's team so her sister could be saved. Renfield was heartbroken at this sight, but this was just Rebecca's tactic. She then took the opportunity to open the curtains, letting sunlight flood the room. Dracula was attacked and transformed into a bat. Bloody Mary quickly opened the basement door to help Dracula escape, but Rebecca and Renfield followed closely. In the darkness, Rebecca was no match for Dracula and was lifted off the ground, even though she was pretty heavy. Renfield stepped in to save heavy Rebecca, but he was no match for Dracula either. Dracula teleported behind Renfield and choked him like a chicken. Just then, Renfield was reminded of the words from the support group, so he found the energy to flip Dracula over and began to pummel him. However, Dracula's power was too strong for anyone to resist. He found an opportunity to counterattack, and Renfield was sent flying like an adult toy. As Dracula pursued his victory, he accidentally fell into a magic circle that Rebecca had set up, immobilizing him temporarily. In the end, with Rebecca's help, Renfield dismembered Dracula into onion pieces and flushed him down the drain to prevent him from resurrecting. The movie ends with Bloody Mary receiving the punishment she deserved. Rebecca's sister was rescued, and Renfield finally gained his freedom from his manipulative master. This is Daniel CC Movie Channel. Stay safe and enjoy your day.